Now turn to Section 4.
You will hear lecturer talking about the global fight against plastic pollution.
First, you have some time to look at question 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer question 31 to 40.
Plastic pollution is one of the most pressing environmental challenges of the 21st century. The proliferation of plastic products, especially single-use items, has resulted in widespread pollution of the world's oceans, rivers, and landscapes. Today, an estimated 8 million metric tons of plastic waste enters the ocean every year, disrupting marine ecosystems, killing wildlife, and entering the food chain through microplastics. The global community has recognized the urgency of addressing this issue, leading to increased efforts across various sectors, governmental, corporate, and grassroots, to combat plastic pollution and promote more sustainable alternatives. One of the major drivers of plastic pollution is the global reliance on single-use plastics, such as plastic bags, straws, and packaging materials. These items, designed to be used once and then discarded, account for a significant portion of the waste that ends up in landfills and waterways. Unlike biodegradable materials, plastics can take hundreds of years to decompose, during which time they break down into smaller particles known as microplastics. These microplastics, now pervasive in oceans and soils, are ingested by marine life and, eventually, humans, causing health concerns and disrupting ecosystems. The response to plastic pollution has been multifaceted, with governments, businesses, and environmental organizations playing key roles. Many countries have implemented bans or taxes on single-use plastics in an effort to reduce consumption. For example, in 2018, the European Union passed legislation to phase out single-use plastics by 2021, targeting items like cutlery, straws, and plastic plates. Similarly, countries like Rwanda, Kenya, and India have introduced strict bans on plastic bags, significantly reducing the amount of plastic waste generated. These legislative measures are a crucial step toward reducing the amount of plastic entering the environment, though enforcement and compliance remain ongoing challenges. At the corporate level, businesses are increasingly adopting more sustainable practices to reduce plastic waste. Major companies, particularly those in the food and beverage industries, are rethinking their packaging strategies. Brands like Coca-Cola and Unilever have committed to using more recycled materials in their packaging and are investing in the development of biodegradable or reusable alternatives. Some companies have also embraced the circular economy model, where products are designed for reuse, repair, or recycling, minimizing waste generation. The rise of eco-friendly packaging solutions has also been driven by consumer demand. More consumers are becoming aware of the environmental impact of their purchasing decisions and are opting for products that are packaged sustainably. This has led to innovation in the packaging industry, with alternatives like paper-based packaging, compostable materials, and reusable containers gaining popularity. For example, Loop, a circular shopping platform, allows consumers to purchase products in reusable packaging, which is collected, cleaned, and refilled by the company. On a grassroots level, environmental organizations and activists have been at the forefront of raising awareness about plastic pollution and pushing for change. Beach cleanups, recycling initiatives, and campaigns to reduce plastic consumption have gained significant traction around the world. The Break Free from Plastic movement, for instance, has united individuals, organizations, and policymakers in their mission to reduce plastic waste and hold corporations accountable for their role in plastic production and pollution. In addition to mitigation efforts, there has been a growing focus on cleaning up existing plastic pollution, particularly in the oceans. Innovative technologies like the Ocean Cleanup Project, which uses a system of floating barriers to collect plastic debris from the ocean's surface, represent a major step forward in tackling the plastic already present in marine environments. Likewise, organizations such as 4Ocean have collected millions of pounds of plastic waste from oceans and coastlines by selling bracelets made from recycled materials, with proceeds funding their cleanup efforts. Education and public awareness campaigns also play a critical role in the fight against plastic pollution. By informing the public about the detrimental effects of plastic on the environment and human health, these campaigns aim to shift consumer behavior and encourage more sustainable choices. Many schools, businesses, and governments have integrated plastic pollution education into their programs, fostering a new generation of environmentally conscious citizens. Despite the progress made, significant challenges remain. The global production of plastic continues to rise, with estimates suggesting that plastic production could double by 2050 if current trends continue. Recycling rates are also alarmingly low, with less than 10% of the world's plastic waste being recycled. This highlights the need for a more systemic approach to addressing plastic pollution, one that involves redesigning production processes, improving waste management infrastructure, and fostering international cooperation. In conclusion, the global fight against plastic pollution requires collective action from all levels of society. Governments must continue to implement and enforce policies that reduce plastic waste. Businesses must adopt more sustainable practices, and individuals must make conscious choices to minimize their plastic footprint. While the challenge is immense, the growing awareness of the issue and the innovative solutions being developed offer hope for a future where plastic pollution is significantly reduced, protecting both the environment and human health.
That is the end of Section 4. Now, you have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to Section 4.
You will hear lecturer talking about renewable energy and the transition to a green economy.
First, you have some time to look at question 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer question 31 to 40.
The transition to a green economy, which focuses on sustainability, low-carbon development, and resource efficiency, is essential for addressing the global challenges of climate change and environmental degradation. Central to this transition is the shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources, such as solar, wind, hydropower, and biomass. Renewable energy offers a cleaner, more sustainable alternative to conventional energy, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and mitigating the impacts of global warming. As countries around the world set ambitious targets to reduce their carbon footprints, the role of renewable energy in driving this shift has become increasingly important. One of the main advantages of renewable energy is its environmental impact. Unlike fossil fuels, which release carbon dioxide and other harmful pollutants into the atmosphere, renewable energy sources produce little to no emissions. This helps to combat climate change by reducing the concentration of greenhouse gases responsible for global warming. For example, solar panels generate electricity without producing emissions, and wind turbines harness natural wind energy, which is a limitless resource. By investing in renewable energy, nations can significantly reduce their reliance on polluting energy sources and contribute to global efforts to limit temperature rise. In addition to environmental benefits, the shift to renewable energy also has economic advantages. The renewable energy sector is rapidly growing, creating jobs and driving innovation. According to the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, the sector employed over 12 million people globally in 2020. Investments in renewable energy infrastructure, such as solar farms and wind power projects, are providing new opportunities in manufacturing, installation, and maintenance, contributing to economic growth in both developed and developing nations. The green economy also promotes energy independence, as countries can generate their own clean energy instead of relying on imported fossil fuels. However, challenges remain in the global transition to renewable energy. High upfront costs, the need for technological advancements, and the intermittency of sources like solar and wind energy present obstacles. Nevertheless, with continued innovation, policy support, and global cooperation, renewable energy is poised to play a pivotal role in achieving a sustainable and low-carbon future. The shift to a green economy is not only necessary for protecting the environment but also for fostering economic resilience and long-term prosperity.
That is the end of Section 4. Now, you have half a minute to check your answerers. Now turn to Section 4.
You will hear lecturer talking about the ethics of genetic engineering and biotechnology.
First, you have some time to look at question 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer question 31 to 40.
The advent of genetic engineering and biotechnology has revolutionized science, medicine, and agriculture, offering unprecedented opportunities to alter the genetic makeup of organisms. From genetically modified crops that resist pests to gene editing technologies like CRISPR that can potentially cure genetic diseases, the possibilities seem endless. However, these innovations raise significant ethical concerns about the potential risks, moral boundaries, and long-term societal implications of altering life at its most fundamental level. One of the primary ethical concerns surrounding genetic engineering is the question of safety. Modifying the genetic structure of organisms can have unintended consequences, some of which may not become apparent until much later. In agriculture, for instance, genetically modified organisms, GMOs, are designed to increase crop yield and resist disease, but there are concerns about their impact on biodiversity and ecosystems. If engineered traits spread to wild populations, they could disrupt natural ecosystems in ways that are difficult to predict or control. Similarly, in medicine, while gene editing techniques hold promise for curing genetic disorders, the long-term effects of altering human genes are still largely unknown, raising concerns about unintended mutations or hereditary complications. The ethical debate also extends to questions of equity and access. Biotechnology has the potential to widen social inequalities if access to these technologies is limited to those who can afford them. For instance, the ability to genetically enhance human traits such as intelligence or physical ability could lead to a new form of social stratification, where genetically enhanced individuals have distinct advantages over others. This raises serious concerns about fairness and justice, especially if these technologies are monopolized by wealthier individuals or nations, leaving marginalized populations even further behind. In addition to issues of equity, the manipulation of human and animal genes touches on deep philosophical and moral questions about the limits of scientific intervention. Many argue that genetic engineering, especially in humans, crosses a moral boundary by allowing humans to play God. The prospect of creating designer babies, for instance, not only raises concerns about individual rights and parental responsibility but also about the societal implications of controlling human evolution. Despite these ethical concerns, proponents argue that the benefits of genetic engineering and biotechnology, particularly in medicine, are too significant to ignore. Technologies like CRISPR could potentially eradicate inherited diseases such as cystic fibrosis and Huntington's disease, improving the quality of life for millions of people. In agriculture, genetically engineered crops could help address food security by enabling crops to grow in challenging conditions or by providing enhanced nutritional value. Given the increasing challenges of climate change, such innovations may prove essential for ensuring food sustainability in the future. The ethics of genetic engineering and biotechnology ultimately call for a balanced approach. While the potential benefits are significant, careful regulation, ethical oversight, and public dialogue are necessary to ensure that these technologies are used responsibly. Striking the right balance between innovation and precaution will be crucial as society continues to navigate the complex ethical landscape of altering the genetic fabric of life itself.
That is the end of Section 4. Now, you have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to Section 4.
You will hear lecturer talking about the impact of global trade policies on developing nations.
First, you have some time to look at question 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer question 31 to 40.
Global trade policies play a significant role in shaping the economies of developing nations. These policies, which govern how countries engage in international trade, can either provide opportunities for growth or create challenges that hinder development. For developing nations, which often rely on trade for economic growth, the impact of global trade policies is a critical factor in determining their progress toward poverty reduction, industrialization, and overall prosperity. One of the main ways in which global trade policies impact developing nations is through market access. Trade agreements and policies, such as tariffs, quotas, and subsidies, can either open or close foreign markets to developing countries' goods and services. When developed nations impose high tariffs or restrictive quotas on imports from developing nations, it limits the ability of these countries to compete in global markets. For instance, agricultural products from Africa or Latin America may face high tariffs in European or American markets, making it harder for farmers and producers in those regions to sell their goods internationally. This restricts economic opportunities and perpetuates dependence on low-value exports, which can slow economic progress. On the other hand, trade liberalization, where trade barriers are reduced or eliminated, can offer developing nations greater access to global markets. Free trade agreements, such as those negotiated by the World Trade Organization, WTO, aim to level the playing field and promote fair competition. However, even in these contexts, developing nations often struggle to compete due to a lack of infrastructure, technology, and skilled labor, which are necessary to take full advantage of global trade opportunities. In addition to market access, global trade policies influence developing nations through the terms of trade, which dictate the price of exports relative to imports. Developing nations often export raw materials or agricultural products while importing manufactured goods from developed countries. This trade imbalance can lead to unfavorable terms of trade, where the prices of exports fall relative to the cost of imports, trapping developing nations in a cycle of low income and high expenditure. Furthermore, subsidies in developed nations distort global trade and create unequal competition. For example, heavy subsidies provided to farmers in the United States and Europe artificially lower the prices of agricultural products, allowing them to dominate global markets. This undercuts farmers in developing nations, who cannot compete with the subsidized prices, leading to reduced incomes and economic hardship in rural areas. Despite these challenges, global trade policies can also drive positive development outcomes if designed with equity in mind. Preferential trade agreements that give developing nations favorable access to markets, such as the Generalized System of Preferences, GSP, allow for tariff reductions on exports from low-income countries. Additionally, initiatives like Aid for Trade, which aims to help developing countries improve their trade capacity, can support infrastructure development, enhance competitiveness, and enable these nations to integrate more effectively into the global economy. Ultimately, the impact of global trade policies on developing nations is multifaceted. While global trade offers immense potential for economic growth, the benefits are not evenly distributed. To ensure that trade policies contribute to sustainable development, there must be a focus on fairness, capacity building, and reducing trade barriers for developing nations. Fairer trade practices, combined with investment in education, infrastructure, and technology, are essential for empowering developing nations to compete on the global stage and achieve long-term economic stability.
That is the end of section 4. Now, you have half a minute to check your answers.